Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Sales Circle podcast. You know by now that this is the sales podcast that is designed to help you improve your sales. With me, your host, Rob Spence, a world-renowned sales trainer, sales author, sales coach, and an overall sales nerd. And hello and welcome to today's very pink set, dare I say. I've tried to get into the habit of sort of changing the colours on the background just for a bit of variance. We do always, it's actually off shot today for some reason. I need to get used to moving the camera, but we always have a piece of art over this side that always changes. Today, it's actually a vagina. Genuinely, the artwork on the wall is a vagina, an artistic vagina, albeit, but there is a vagina on the wall, but you can't see that. But the lights, I don't know why I went with that. The lights, I'm going to change every time, but they're very pink today. So if you are watching over on YouTube, you'll kind of see what I mean. Today, you can tell I'm in a good mood. It's because it's one of my favourite sort of episodes that come round time and time again. Today's episode is all about your questions. And you know, if you're a fan of the podcast, if you're a fan of the show, I absolutely love these episodes because these are the episodes where, although every week I ask you to send in questions, and although every week I read out some questions, every now and then I throw in an episode where all we focus on is answer your questions. And today is no different. I've got 12, I think. I've not read each question. I took it off the printer, had a quick glance down. So a lot of these will take me by surprise. But these are the questions that you have sent in that have been burning on your mind, and I'm going to answer them one by one. So make sure you stay tuned for this awesome edition of the Sales Circle podcast. As always, what I ask you to do is stop what you are doing, right? Hit that follow button if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Hit the subscribe button over on YouTube, and let's crack on. So I think it's time I got my show notes for today. So as always, if you do ever have a burning sales question that you want to ask, maybe you're struggling with your sales, maybe you're doing too well with your sales and you don't know how to spend your money, maybe you've got a cool sales story that you want to share, whatever it is, contact me. You can find me personally on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. All you got to do is search for Rob Spence, and you'll see a very heavily photoshopped old photo now. I'm like a catfish. But you'll also see we've got an email, thesalescircleofficial@gmail.com, or you can find us on social media. So let's start from the very top. These are in no particular order and aren't in any sort of, genre. 12 questions, top to bottom, left to right. Let's go. First question is from Laura, who says, "Hey Rob, how do you stay motivated when you're constantly being told no?" Listen, that's a great question, and one that we've spoke about previously on the podcast, and one I deal with both myself on a day-to-day level. I deal with it with my team on a day-to-day level. And, I also have, trained and coached people who go through the same thing. I think there's two ways we're going to explore this, we don't have too long, so I'll try and be quick, right? Number one, just remember that rejection is an absolute natural part of sales. You cannot escape sales, or beg your pardon, you cannot escape rejection when you work in sales. Not everyone you speak to is going to say no, yes. Not everyone you send a proposal to is going to say yes. People will naturally say no to you, and you're going to get rejected. So with that in mind, what I tend to do is I gamify things. I turn the whole sales shebang into a game, whether that's me doing it myself or whether that's with the team. Now, normally that game could be some form of reward. If it's you and yourself by yourself, maybe you're working at home, gamify things. Say, look, I'm gonna get an extra 10 no's, and then what I'm going to take half an hour walk break. I'm going to reward myself. Remember, we use the word reward, not treat. I'm going to reward myself for those actions. Or, hey, actually, when I do get a sale, when I do get a yes, I'm going to book that weekend away that I've always wanted to do. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to book that hotel room in the city break that I've always wanted to do. I'm just going to chill there. I'm not going to make any plans just by myself. I'm going to take my book and I'm just going to chill and unwind. And of course, if you're in a team, just gamify keeping motivated and continually prospecting. Of course, that could be monetary. That could sometimes just be, what did my old boss used to say to me? Is like, sometimes I'd walk into the sales office, put a bottle of wine on the table. The person to make the most amount of sales gets to take that home at the end of the week, at the end of the day, or whatever. bottle of wine, back in those days, £5. Do you know what I mean? It's not the end of the world, but it gives people something to try and achieve. So, Laura, I think, look, just remember, A, rejection happens, but secondly, gamify things. Think about those extra steps you can put in. And I've spoken a lot about reward there. It doesn't have to be reward. You can just sort of go through a motion of, right, I'm going to make an extra 20 cold calls and so on and so forth. This question says, this one is from David. What's the one sales skill you think every beginner should master first? Wow. What's the one sales skill? Oh God. Right. I'm going to talk to you about what I'm known for most, what I'm known for best. And that's relationship development, right? We've just recorded and produced an episode just last week. So do go check it out if you missed it, talking about selling human to human and relationship development. I even wrote a book on it, relationship selling, many years ago. We could talk about all the skills that encompasses a salesperson: prospecting, questioning, objection handling, closing, everything else in between. But actually, really, the whole thing that solidifies all of that and the thing that we need to get into our minds is relationship development. Remember, people buy from people. If we make a sale, we make a commission. But if we make if we make a friend, we will make a living. I think, David, in answer to your question, nail down relationship development first. Everything else follows after. Amira from Birmingham says, Rob, I struggle to close deals after the proposal stage. What might I be doing wrong? Okay, so that's great. We've recognized where our sales are dropping off in that sales pipeline, which is something that many people don't know. So we know at this point in time, the proposal's going out, we're not winning the sale. So now what we need to do is understand why those conversion rates, I'd class this as part of the converting stage of the sales cycle or the sales process, that why are we not converting? And there's a couple of simple hints and tips that I'd recommend. Is one, look at your follow-up process. How often are you following up? How are you following up? Are you even following up at all? Remember, we should be implementing 7 to 12 touch points when we're trying to sell something. So if you don't hear back, if you send a proposal and just leave it in the hands of your in your prospect, and you're not hearing anything, we need to look at that process. If that process is absolutely nailed down, we can then investigate further. Have we tried seeking feedback from prospects? Is it that the proposal doesn't encourage enough social proof? Is there no case studies in there? Is it too much talking about you and not the problems that you solve? Of course, you can look over that, but why not give that to mentors, to peers? Ask your prospects directly. It could be any reason, and until you get that feedback, you're just not going to know. In typical Rob Spence fashion, I've recognised that my battery light is flashing on the camera. So, of course, audio-wise, don't panic. This has happened before, and the camera's lasted absolutely fine. But if you are watching this on YouTube, very soon a thumbnail will probably just appear where I vanish. But don't panic, don't stress. We'll still get the content out there. Tom, this is a great question. Tom says, how much time should I spend on prospecting each day? And how do I make it more effective? Tom, easy answer. Prospect all day, every single day. Don't waste any time and just prospect, prospect, prospect. Of course, I'm telling a fib there. It's very hard to answer that question without understanding what kind of role you do and if you've got a full 360 role or if you've got other elements to look at and so on and so forth, right? But really, Tom, what we've got to try and remember is sales and an increase in sales doesn't happen, or it does, but it doesn't necessarily happen when we convert more sales. If anything, we need to be filling that top of the pipeline up and prospecting more and more and more, because what prospecting does is it gives us more seed to then harvest later on in the autumn. Of course, we can get really better at our converting skills, but let's say I love a football analogy. I love a football analogy, right? If you're a Premier League striker, star striker, right? You need chance after chance after chance in the hope of converting into one goal, right? If you just get one chance to convert into one goal, your chances are very slim and pretty much working against you. So the more chances you have, the better you will at converting that goal. So in answer to your question, was it Tom, I think? As most as possible, right? I understand that there's other things that you've got to be doing. You've probably got to be following up. You've got to be quoting, proposing, maybe demoing, admin. Obviously, you've got to eat, drink, live, breathe, everything else in between. I mean, look, realistically, 2 to 3 hours is a good fail safe. And I'm going to include cold calling, email, outreach. I'm going to include following up with current customers for cross-selling and upselling opportunities and potentially reselling opportunities. I'm also going to include social selling as well. I think if I look at my business success, my business has grown because I've never stopped prospecting. I've never stopped looking for that next piece of gold, and neither should you. Sophie says, what's the best way to build rapport quickly during a cold call? Sophie, in my opinion, it's simple, right? Don't be a robot. I own a telemarketing, a cold calling, an SDR agency, however you want to word it, called Paragon Sales Solutions. We make hundreds, if not thousands, of cold calls every single day. And the one thing that I drill into my teams is don't be a robot. We can very easily fall into a monotonous line of reading from a script, dealing with rejection, dealing with poor motivation, going through the motions. And at times, this is where people go wrong with cold calling, I think, is they pitch. And they sell without listening, without investigating, without asking questions. And I believe that the best cold callers in the world are those that ask questions. Of course, in asking questions, we will naturally develop rapport. We will naturally understand the needs and wants of people. I always say this. If you go to a party and you're sat with a person that is talking, you can't get a word in edgeways, do you go away going, I really enjoyed spending time with them. Can't wait to spend time with them again. But if they ask you questions and allow to have a two-way conversation, you go away feeling slightly different, right? So Sophie, I think it was, please do ask more questions. That will really help you. Final one before we have a very short break. James from Newcastle. Your team's doing well this year. It's James says, is it better to niche down or stay broad when trying to grow a small business? I love this question, right? And 100% to my editors who are editing this up, we need to clip this, right? I call bullshit on the whole niching down, phenomena in the world, right? I believe that niching down is very small-minded. It's important when we talk about targeting, when we talk about advertising, when we talk about marketing. But from a business sense, I believe that niching down is utter bullshit. And the only people that talk about niching down are the low-level business coaches who have never run a business before, right? So, look, I was having this conversation with a client the other day, right? Look at Nike, right? If I say Nike to you, the listener, the viewer, will think about Nike completely different to how I think about it. You'll think about different products, different things that they sell. Because Nike haven't niched down, have they? Really, in the grand scheme of things. They haven't niched down in the way that many small-level business coaches want us to niche down. Nike sell clothes for any appendage on my body. Socks, pants, hats, gloves, scarves, trousers, jackets, jumpers. So if we look at it from that point of view, they've not niched down and gone, yeah, we're gonna be the world's best sock maker. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do, right? But also they don't target one individual sector. There's babies walking around with bloody Nike gloves on, for goodness sake, right? Nike have conquered the market in golf, in tennis, in football, in every sporting apparel known to man and womankind. But beyond that, they've also gone into leisure wear, casual wear, and everything else in between. So, and there's loads of brands. And when you think about all these other brands that have, you look at Next. I've just had to buy some clothes from Next. I bought clothes from Next. But lo and behold, there's Next Homeware. And yet Next Homeware does really well. So here's the thing. Sorry, I've gone off on a rant there. When we talk about niching down, I think from a business level, I think niching down is probably one of the worst things that you can do because, lo and behold, you limit your chances of success. However, now here's the big caveat to this. Here's the big however. Who said this? Sorry, James, I think. James, what we need to then do is niche down our targeting, our messaging, our advertising, and our marketing. Of course, if I walk into a room and I open up my jacket and I've got everything on sale, left and right, like the old days and down the pub, right? Then of course we are going to overwhelm. We are potentially going to confuse. We are going to potentially, push away people that want to buy from us. But actually, if we niche down our targeting and I walk into a pub full of wine lovers and I walking in my jacket is just all my corkscrews, lo and behold, the messaging, the targeting, the advertising and everything else becomes a lot easier. So, James, short answer to your question is I feel that no, you shouldn't niche down. Of course, look, you don't want to be too broad. You don't want to overwhelm yourself. And I believe that everything that you sell or everything you offer should correlate or have some meaningness behind it. But I feel that niching down too soon, too quick is an absolute no for me, in my opinion. We're going to take a very short break for some quick messages. So stay tuned, and we've got another 6 questions to burn through. If you are looking to increase your sales, and perhaps these podcasts have given you a nice, tantalizing tease into the world of sales training, sales coaching, and sales leadership and sales thoughts, have you tried taking on any sales training? Alongside the Sales Circle podcast, I actually am a sales trainer. I'm a sales coach, a sales mentor. And my thing in life is to help people sell better, sell, more effectively, and to grow their careers. Now, there's a number of ways in which you can work with me. And today I want you to think about my online sales training courses. My online sales training courses are available to take part in pretty much anywhere in the world as long as you've got an internet connection and a device. And they are very cost effective. I have online courses on pretty much anything to do with sales. Of course, my online sales training courses are nowhere near as good and effective as my one-to-one and my group training sessions. But that being said, my online sales training courses are probably the best next step to help you to increase your sales skills, to increase your sales, and ultimately sell more effectively. Interested? All you got to do is hit the link in the comments or the show notes below. Look for the online sales training courses. Have a look around, see what's going on, and I hope to see you there. Welcome back. We move swiftly on to our next question, which is from Ella, a local listener by the sounds of things. Ella is from Leicester. Nice to hear from you, Ella. Ella says, how do you recommend handling price objections without sounding defensive? Absolutely. One of my worst stories about salespeople comes from a salesperson who was ultra defensive and highly offensive when it came to a price objection. And I'm not going to tell you that story today because we're going to talk about some of the worst sales stories in a future episode. And of course, if you want to share any bad stories that you've had with salespeople or businesses, send them into the salescircleofficial@gmail.com and we'll read them out. But what we need to be doing is uplifting value, okay? Price and money will always be a stickler, whether you're selling B2B, B2C, or whatever, right? Price will always be a thing because our hard-earned money has to go a long way. Our job as salespeople, and this is what really differentiates marketers with salespeople, is as salespeople have to convince and persuade and influence people that actually by investing X amount of money, lo and behold, that individual is going to see a return. Now, that return doesn't always have to be financial, but there has to be something in it for me. There has to be a benefit. There has to be a reason why someone wants to invest. So, Ella, I think it was, don't ever be afraid, don't ever be ashamed to stand your ground. We don't have to be defensive, but say, listen, I hear everything you're saying. However, my previous clients actually found that by investing in this, they saw X, Y, and Z. They went away and felt A, B, and C. Sell the value, not always that pound sign. Ben says, how can I tell the difference between a lead that's stalling and one that's just being polite? Listen, it happens all the time. And sometimes that could not just extend into stalling, but potentially ghosting as well, right? For me, it's about having open and honest conversations. And the only way you're going to get open and honest conversations is if we ask good questions on the basis that we have a good relationship. So Ben, my honest advice is build that relationship, build that two-way friendship, build that kind of advisor level, and ask questions. Don't ever be afraid, especially if the relationship is there, and do it in a non-confrontational way. Just say, listen, I know we've been putting this off a few months now. I don't want to keep taking up your time. I know you're a busy woman. I know you're a busy man. Is this something that is still on your radar, or do you think that it's something we need to kind of postpone for now? Or words to that effect. We can kind of be upfront and honest, but in a non-confrontational way. Remember, Ben, if you've got that relationship and you've got the ability to ask those questions, that's where the real sales communication comes into play. Jude from London says, do you think AI tools and automation are taking the human out of sales, or can they actually help? Absolutely. And I've recorded a couple of episodes on AI. recently. I think my stance on AI in sales is this. AI can be effective for helping us do the jobs that as salespeople shouldn't be doing, right? Us salespeople should not be, although it's useful, updating CRM systems, creating notes, doing admin tasks. Our job as salespeople, the reason why our bosses pay us is to go out there and sell. Simple, right? Absolutely simple as hell. AI and automation is really bad for salespeople if salespeople go out there and they use it to do everything for them, to write their sales emails, to write their LinkedIn posts, to write their social media posts, to write their blog posts, to write their sales call scripts. Although AI at times can be great to help boost and I'll term a phrase that ChatGPT loves, elevate one's sales script or sales pitch, you're not enhancing or honing those skills. Oh my gosh, the camera's just gone. Okay, so obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, please stay tuned. Editors, just put a nice, beautiful thumbnail of me on for the rest of the episode. I can chill out now. I can sit back in my chair and just record audio, which is quite nice. But sort of implementing AI, especially too early in your sales career, can be really dangerous. It's like giving an electric bike to a 5-year-old. If you give an electric bike to a 5-year-old, right, all they're ever going to do is use that electric bike to get around. When you then hand them a real bike, will that person have the skills, the strength, or the confidence or the balance to then ride a normal push bike? No, of course they won't. And that's the same with AI. We've got to continuously enhance and hone our skills. And that extends out to business owners and marketeers as well, right? We have got to have those skill sets, right? Don't get me wrong, I've used AI to author blog posts for me in the past, but that's because I've put in the hard reps. I've authored, hundreds, if not thousands of blog posts from my very heart, my soul, my pen, and now I'm comfortable in knowing what to put into AI to get a good blog post out, but I had to put those reps in first. So to answer your question, Jude, I think yes, it is. And I think, those that remain human are the ones that are going to stand out. Question number 10. What's your opinion on following up via WhatsApp or text message? Too informal or effective? Zara from Leeds. Great question. I think it's great. I think it's effective. If you look at a lot of statistics and studies, we can see and we know that actually any kind of SMS or WhatsApp messaging is actually more effective than email. I believe that will come full circle again. All it is we're just diluting and moving our messaging through a vacuum to the next shiny thing, right? People are sick of email, so they then just look out for WhatsApps. There will come a time when people are sick of WhatsApps, and I think it will happen very soon, and they go back to handwritten letters, to email and everything else in between. I think if you've got the relationship with the prospect, always ask permission. I think don't be afraid to ask permission. But it's a great way if someone's ghosting you, if you've got their WhatsApp, just turn up out of the blue. If someone's not, spoken to you, then a nice WhatsApp is nice. I think that, for me, one of the great things about WhatsApp is it humanizes sales. Remember, we spoke in last week, I think it was, about selling human to human. Email can be very corporate, right? You're very hidden. No one actually knows who the name is that sits behind. Kind regards. With WhatsApp, you've got a photo. You've got a profile image. It's a bit more personal. And I think that touches the hearts and souls of a prospect far better than an email. So Zara, look, go for it. It's not going to work for everyone, but even if it works for just half of the people that have ghosted you in the past 6 months, isn't that a good thing? I think so. Kyle from Norwich says, what are some of the low-cost ways to grow your business if you're just starting out? Once again, a great question, Kyle. Thank you so much for asking. Look, I can tell you this because I bootstrapped my business. I literally put £300, I think it was, in a business bank account. Had enough savings to last me on, a personal level 1 month, so I had to make it happen. I had to grow the business from the ground up, and it was hard. I think the best way to grow a business, I'm going to put an overall umbrella term on it. I'm going to talk about personal branding. Personal branding, in my opinion, could extend out to networking, social selling, PR as well. But I remember, like I say, if actually you look at our business books, our first ever expense that came out of the business bank was to an online networking group. I want to say it was 30 quid potentially for a year, which at the time, even then I was like, oh gosh, can I do this? Oh gosh, sorry. Is this going to be worth it? But what we've got to remember is although that, yes, networking won't be the be all and end all, but what that did is that streamlined, conversations. It really helped my personal branding. It helped me build connections, did eventually lead on to one of our first ever customers and clients and push through there. So yeah, look, there's a couple of other things I'd recommend, Kyle, but low cost, network and personal brand, and like I said, that extends out to LinkedIn and everything else, but grow your personal brand, your business will follow suit. And that about wraps us up for another episode of the Sales Circle podcast. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm loving the momentum we are gaining with the Sales Circle podcast. We're getting so many fans worldwide, so many questions getting sent in. We're getting views on YouTube. We're getting streams on Spotify. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank you. Just before we round up, don't forget, hit that follow button, hit that subscribe, drop the video a like. And listen, why don't you send this episode to one of your colleagues, your peers? It could be that good value-bringing conversation to someone that you are trying to do business with. Just share them the link. It shares value, right? Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. I've been, as always, Rob Spence, your host. And until next Thursday, all the best. And that's it for another episode of the Sales Circle. Make sure you hit that follow button. Join us over on social media, and we'll see you next week.